Hi, friends. Welcome to Charlie and Steve Watch Stuff, where today we are watching The Birdcage. My name's Steve Selnick, and joining me, as always, he's got the Fosse, he's got the Marsha Graham, he's got the Michael Kidd, he's got the Madonna, but he's keeping it all inside. It's my good friend, Charlie Peppers. Charlie, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, too. What an introduction, and also, what a great damn quote from that movie.
It's probably, there's a lot of good quotables in this movie. It's probably the thing that I say the most, just like in life, just kind of randomly, especially when I'm trying to like feel the beat or something. I default to the Madonna, but you keep it all inside. I say that a lot, and now I'm proud to say that my partner knows what I mean when I ramble about that incessantly. But very pleased to have another repeat guest back on the podcast to get us back into discussing The Birdcage. And I think it came up in our first discussion when we had you on the first time, or in just all of the popular culture that you post about. We see stuff about The Birdcage all the time, but we are so pleased to have Newsweek's Parting Shots, H. Alan Scott, back on the podcast. H. Alan, welcome back.
Hello. How are we?
Doing wonderful. So good to have you. How has life been since we had you on the podcast all of those months, what feels like years ago? So much has happened.
Oh, wow. I don't even know. When was I last on? Do you know? Do you know the date?
The Oscar predictions.
Oh,
right.
So
right before the Oscars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So since then, Ozempic is going great. I've lost lots of weight, and things are good. I have, unlike our friend Charlie here, I have not dyed my hair again. My hair is still the color that it was last time, I believe. And yeah, that's basically my life since then.
Just running a popular culture podcast that's very popular and crushing it as always. And yes, for our YouTubers. Yes, exactly. I love it. For our YouTubers or people that are listening to us audio only that want to go and see the glory that is Charlie's very gorgeous Frank Ocean adjacent blonde hair right now.
Blonde hair. I mean, we might as well be talking about porn here.
Put him on the album cover. Let's go.
Yeah.
Shit, that was like half my notes.
That's for the Patreon. That's for the
we can save that for when we're talking about the decorations in Armand's house, because that's probably the closest we're gonna get in this one. Maybe, who knows? We never know how off the rails we can get. But we kind of jumped right into it because we were discussing The Birdcage, which is the film that we're gonna talk about today. We're super stoked to be talking about it, but H. Alan and I, this movie came out a long time ago. It came out in the 90s, a long time ago.
Let's not say a long time.
Yeah, I know. That immediately hurt my chest too, because I was definitely like old. I'm old enough to remember when this came out. So
same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that Charlie should also be old enough to remember when it came out as well. But we found out in our pre-discussion for this episode that him watching it last night was the first time that he had ever watched this movie ever, and both H. Alan and I kind of immediately clutched our pearls and went, how did this happen? So I want to actually start with you, H. Alan, and kind of discuss your history with this film and when you first consumed it and what it has meant to you in becoming the person that you are today. And then I want to kind of go into Charlie a little bit and his sort of first-timers takes before we jump into like the plot itself.
Well, I want to say on the day that we're recording this, not when it comes out, but on the day we're recording this is the anniversary of Robin Williams passing. He died 10 years ago as of today's recording. And, this film, and I was lucky enough in my lifetime to tell Robin Williams how much this film meant to me. It was I did a show. He took us to dinner afterwards. And so I was having dinner or like a meal with him. He didn't eat very much. Hollywood. All I remember is that I said, because I was so like in a fog, and he was such a big person for me, that I made a Ruth Bader Ginsburg joke, and he like did a belly laugh. And I have no idea what I said, but I will always remember that moment. So his passing hits for me very much. But my relationship to this film. So when I was a kid, my family would go to the movies a lot. We were a big movie night family. Like every Friday or weekend, we would go to a movie. It was always a thing, which I am very grateful for because I'm still that person. And one weekend, and I usually was the one steering us in what direction, what film to watch, because I was the one who subscribed to Premiere Magazine. I'm that old that I had a subscription to Premiere Magazine when I was a little kid. Little kid, operative word. So I had all of the things, and I knew what movies were coming out. So I knew this movie was really big. And I knew the subject matter, and I really wanted to see it, but I knew I couldn't see it on my own because I was too young to see it on my own. And so I needed it to be the movie night movie that we went to go see. I couldn't just get it from Blockbuster or something. I didn't want to wait for it to go to a rental place. So I was like, we're going to go see it as a movie because I had to see it the night it came out. And we went to go see it. And I remember watching this film, because I knew I was gay, or at least I didn't have words for it. Or I knew something was up with me. And I was watching this film, and I saw Nathan Lane's character in the film, and I was terrified of him because I just related to him so much. And he was so the type of person and the type of humor and the type of everything, the way I gesticulate, my aesthetic, like all of the things, not so much anymore my aesthetic, but all of the things that was that character I identified with in a lot of ways. And I was so frightened of it because it concerned me that I would become that person, or I was that person. And then I remember on the ride home, my mom, everyone loved the film. We kept quoting the film. I mean, the Madonna, like all of the things, like we just kept quoting all of the things. And it was such a joyous moment after the film. And I remember my mom saying something about Nathan Lane's character, because we really didn't know Nathan Lane at that point, outside of, I knew his voice from The Lion King, but he wasn't like a household name at that point. And this movie made him a household name. And I remember my mom said that it was brave of someone like him to like be themselves. And it really hit me in a really sort of like wonderful way, that I was like, oh, my mom's going to be cool. My mom's cool. My mom's going to get it. She gets it. She loved him. I'm good. I don't have anything to worry about. And then of course now, years later, I have very much become that character from the Birdcage in my professional life. I do drag. My comedy is very him. Like I am that person who in that movie. And I'm really happy that I have become that person, because they're fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah,
that's really great. I also watched this film with my mom for the first time at whatever age, but I think what really struck me about watching the film that young with my mother, who was engaged in it, laughed at it over and over, loved it, and it showed me, as someone who could grow up and be a continuous ally to that community, that just for a young person in Northeast America to just be like, two men loving each other is not just okay, it's normal. Mm-hmm. It's life. Mm-hmm. Two women loving each other is normal. Nowadays, two they, them, whatever, loving they, them, whatever, also everybody can love each other. And this was such a great example of that I think that people were not ready for in 96, even though it did great in the box office when it first came out. And I think probably shocked a lot of people in that way. And I think a lot of people can learn from even right now. I think there's a lot of stuff in this movie that felt very true to things that are still happening today that can be pulled and can be related to. And this is a discussion I want to have later about how you could remake a movie like The Birdcage right now, because I think you could absolutely do it now.
Yeah.
With some differences, obviously, and some expansions. But Charlie, as someone who saw it for the first time ever, what were your expectations going in, kind of hearing a lot of hype from people like myself and H. Allen going, wait, you haven't seen this? How did this pass you by? Yeah. And then sort of and I swear we'll talk about also, if you're listening to this and you've never seen The Birdcage or don't know the plot of The Birdcage, I actually don't know what you're doing here. Go watch the movie before you listen to this podcast, which is why we're kind of skirting around the actual like plot details, because I think it's a little bit bigger than that in this situation. So Charlie, go for it, man.
Was floored. I was absolutely floored and very moved, very emotional watching this movie. I did not see it coming. I thought the hype around Birdcage was purely hinging on Robin Williams' performance. I thought, oh, people just like it because they like Robin Williams. I'm sure that it'll be great for his performance. I have also really slept on Nathan Lane for his entire career. I'm just like, oh, it's Nathan Lane. I kind of took him for granted. Yeah, rightly so. Finger wag. I should have known that I was going to be blown away and that Nathan Lane would be the heart of this movie, because oh man, I got choked up when he was dressed up in the suit and he was trying and he said, the only thing I've done is try to be there for you and you hate me. And then just walked out, and I just thought, oh no, I felt that way before, and I kind of get that feeling of just what agony to feel like no one will ever see you the way that you see yourself, and will never just see the beauty that you are, the way that you present yourself as just adding value to the world. I love, and I'm so protective of that character. You know who pissed me off the most in this movie? And it wasn't...
Is it Val?
Yes. Yes.
I was so pissed off by Val the whole time.
Hated him from the beginning. From day one.
That's funny.
Just so mean.
I used to live up the street from that actor, and I have to tell you, I told him this to his face one day.
What did he say?
Oh, he laughed. I said it in a funny way. I'm not confrontational in that way, but I can be.
Yeah, it's like, have you addressed that homophobia yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, and we'll get to it, but then, like, it snaps. He's like, no, I'm good now. I'm going to actually stand up for my parents at the 11th hour now that we've been caught. Anyway, we can get into the actual plot of the movie, but thank you for both of you sharing all of that, because I know that film and television can be so personal for people in so many ways, and when you find a film to latch onto like that, or you can find one later on in life that you can have that sort of realization that this was so important for people when it came out, or it can still be important for people now, which is why I'm going to start a Remake the Birdcage campaign. Let's get it happening.
Oh, wow. I love
2025.
That. You know, I do want to add something that, yes, the film has an importance, queer importance to it for queer history and queer film history and all of that, but it also has a really important comedy history and film history in that this is the first reteaming of Mike Nichols and Elaine May since they famously stopped working together in the 1960s. And it started this sort of double feature act, if you will, of them doing both the Birdcage and Primary Colors, and her involvement, Elaine May, who was, relatively elusive after she sort of stopped performing publicly with Mike Nichols. She did things, she wrote, she was still very active, was very active. But the Birdcage and Things to Follow started sort of a renaissance for her for the last bit of her career. Just recently, she became, I think, one of the oldest Tony winners ever in history, just like a couple years ago or something, for something she did on Broadway. I live in LA, so I don't know that. But she's like, it started a whole different sort of part of her career. But this film was the catalyst for not only bringing those two iconic figures in history back together, but also just sort of a new resurgence of Elaine May working again.
Love that. That's the kind of historical relevance you're getting, or the historical relevance. Yeah. Relevance. I'm leaving that in. I'm not cutting that. Yeah. Relevance and relevance from H. Alan Scott, host of
Also,
Check
that
it out
woman,
wherever you find your podcast.
That woman needs to be protected at all costs, because 15 minutes into the movie, I was like, oh, no. I don't want to miss anything. We're watching this with subtitles.
If you are a film lover, if you're a writer and you love, and which is what I did. I mean, I immediately, as soon as I could get my hands on the script, I wanted it, because even though I knew it was based on something else, La Cage aux Folles, and I knew it was which got turned into a musical also on Broadway. Kelsey Grammer did it. His version was horrible. But the French version is fantastic, and the French film version. And the script, Elaine May's script for this is it's just so perfect on a level.
Impeccable.
It really is. And if you read it and you see how it's laid out, you see the mind of a comedic genius sort of working in layers and understanding the actors that she's writing for and how they work. And I mean, from Diane Wiest, who had just won her second Oscar, this was like one of the first films she did after winning her second Oscar, to Christine Baranski, who we really didn't know much about at the time, except that she had just won an Emmy for Sybil, and she had was a Broadway actress, but we didn't know her as the Christine Baranski we know today. Elaine May knew all of these actors and knew how they worked within each other and what their strengths were, and she wrote for their strengths in a way that created this symphony of just brilliant performances.
Totally agree. Shout out to Callista Flockhart, a.k.a. Ally McBeal herself, who just ate up looking bewildered for basically all 45 minutes of her screen time. Well, it was fantastic.
Gene Hackman. Can we talk about Gene Hackman and how perfect he was in this film?
So good.
Someone who should not... And the thing that I thought was... all the press for this film was about Robin Williams playing against type. He wasn't the funny one. He should have been Albert's role. He should have been Nathan Lane's role. He wasn't, and he intentionally chose the other role because he knew how people saw him, and they thought they already saw this in Mrs. Doubtfire, so he didn't need to be doing this, and all this stuff. The conversation was about Robin Williams, rightfully so. He's fantastic in this film. But I think Gene Hackman, this is a film that no one saw Gene Hackman doing, ever. Totally.
I mean, Gene Hackman's usually you could see him being the like the general or this conservative center, but not in a movie like this.
Not in a movie
I
like
totally
this.
see that.
He just literally he won an Oscar in a Western, Unforgiven, like just a couple years before this movie, and then
Right.
he's doing fucking a drag queen movie, like.
Where he's attracted to Nathan Lane in drag
Yes.
for the entire dinner.
Insane.
That's something that went totally over my head when I watched it as a kid.
Oh, not me.
Watching it this time around was absolutely hilarious.
I want the image of him walking through the club in a wig, looking the way that he did, looking so lost, as a gift that I send anywhere now. I want that. It is seared in my memory. It was so adorable. Like, why is no one dancing with me?
Can I tell you, I do that as you both know, I do drag, and every single time I'm in a bar in drag, I do that, where I do the bit where I'm like, why is no one dancing with me? And I know the people who are my friends from the people who they can just be fans, in that if they understand what I'm referencing. There's a great drag king out of Chicago called Tenderoni, one of my best friends, and we talk about the Birdcage on a level that is like obsessive. So that's how we communicate with other drag artists often, is that if they get our quoting the references in this film, then they're in the family. They're in the circle. Come into the circle. It's like what we do.
It's a good litmus test.
Yeah,
for sure.
It really is. It really is.
Let's jump into some of the finer points of this fine film. We've already covered a whole lot of this, but just for redundancy's sake, we are covering The Birdcage. It was released on March 8th, 1996. Screenplay was done by Elaine May, based on, how did you say that, Ichan? Because I was going to just make some joke about how this is the day after we just whooped France's asses in both genders of basketball. So I was going to say it how I say it. And see, this is exactly sports reference, Olympics, blah, blah, blah. Go USA. Whatever. Directed by Mike Nichols, starring Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Gene Hackman, Diane Wiest, Dan Futterman, Callista Flockhart, with Hank Azaria and Christine Baranski in supporting roles. And the plot of the movie is a gay cabaret owner and his drag queen companion agree to put up a false straight front, say that 3 times fast, so that their son can introduce them to his fiance's right-wing conservative parents. And I just want to start right at the beginning, which is just the establishing shot of South Beach, Miami, the Birdcage, the club itself. We get that opening number with something else that I didn't recognize when I was a kid. All of the drag queens lip syncing to We Are Family. A, didn't realize that they were drag queens when I was a younger child, and B, didn't realize that they were lip syncing when I was a younger child, because Nathan Lane later sings.
Yeah.
So I just all of that went over my head. That now
Gene Hackman, is that you?
Yeah, exactly. So now as a 34-year-old who's been to a drag club or two in his adult life, recognize that a little bit easier now.
There's one cast member of this film that never gets any attention, and they should. It's I don't remember his drag name, but it's Meryl Streep's hair stylist. He won an Oscar for his name is J. Roy Helen. But there's a drag queen in the film, the really tall one, that says Bob Dole is gorgeous at the end of the film. Do you remember that woman? And she's throughout the film. She actually opens the film as well with Robin Williams. Like she's throughout the film. That is J. Roy Helland, who is a legendary drag queen. Did drag in the, back in the day, but since has mainly only done Meryl Streep films, her hair and I think makeup sometimes, for her entire career. And Meryl Streep thanked him in her acceptance speech for The Iron Lady, thanking the Academy for giving her friend an Oscar. Like, he's in that mix too, because he won for the hair that night. So like, that queen's iconic and always needs a shout out as well.
Charlie, would you go to the Birdcage as a club?
Hell yeah. I would go to the I would attend the Birdcage. I'd tell people about the Birdcage. I would leave 5-star reviews in the Birdcage. I would just fucking make out in the Birdcage. What a beautiful place. And I think what's so special about that setting and about that club is that you can just, maybe I'm just in a really sentimental mood right now. You can just feel the love in that atmosphere. You can feel the love and the willingness to embrace everybody as they are in that space and in that environment. And as a gay man, particularly as a black gay man in LA, I think that spaces like that, they are pretty rare because they feel very curated and you're supposed to be something and you're supposed to move a certain way. You're supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to dress a certain way. This looks like a place where people have forged relationships that they didn't know were going to be the most important in their lives. It seems like a very, very, very special place. And the fact that We Are Family is the first song, not unintentional, because the movie's bookended with that. This is a film about chosen family, and it's about if you're able to just show up wholeheartedly as yourself and people embrace you, that's your family. And that's just, I think, the thesis statement of this film. So I would absolutely go to the Birdcage every night. What a beautiful place.
I think a light bulb just went off. Actually, two light bulbs just went off for me as you were saying that. It's very similar to things that we say that we love so much about X-Men, which is another thing that we just finished covering in our last session of it, is that X-Men's always one of the main parallels that you can draw between the X-Men and the queer community is that it's all found family. And a lot of the time it's people that find each other and are able to be themselves around each other despite whatever horrible things are being thrown their way by outsiders who don't understand who they are. The other is that I think it kind of spills us into the next part of this opening is when Armand, Robin Williams' character, has to go and talk Albert, Nathan Lane's character, into going on, and he's having a meltdown and refusing to go on. And I believe the meltdown is because he thinks that Armand is cheating on him because there's white wine being chilled, which he never drinks. He makes some excuse about tannins, but he talks him out of it, and he gets him to go on. And
it's very tablets.
The Purine tablets. The Purine tablets where it's aspirin where he rubs the A and the S off of it. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And so, but one thing I can pull from that, what you were saying, Charlie, is that it's very clear that this is not the first time that Albert has had some sort of meltdown that has led to Armand and Agador by association. Also, quick aside to shout out Hank Azaria for Agador, my absolute favorite character in the movie.
Always. And
always
Hank
going
Azaria and a Speedo. I mean, Helen Hunt was hitting it in the 90s. She knew what she was getting at home. Wow. How we all do, actually.
Oh, yeah, big time. He was bringing it in on a lot of fronts, on all cylinders.
Hacking it is what I
the front, the back, profile, and back, anywhere.
Dance moves.
All of it.
The Simpsons voices. That's why I know Hank Azaria, because he's quite literally half the voices of the Simpsons.
Yeah.
So you could hear the janitor voice come out every now and again when he was pretending to be a proper butler man.
Which then does that make you then, since now maybe this is just for the two of us, but that could then make me have a complex in watching The Simpsons, knowing that I'm sexually attracted to Agador Spartacus. However, I hear him as whatever, the bartender, whatever on The Simpsons. Does that then fuck with my head on, an attraction level? Think about that. That's something.
Listen.
That's a deep thought.
Mo's fuzzy in all the right places. That's all I'll say. Okay? That's all I'll say. Back to what I was going to say, to Charlie's point, is that what I notice, or something that I'm noticing now, is that there's no moment where anybody, not just Robin Williams, not Val, not even the sound guy who goes to get Robin Williams in the beginning, there is no moment where people are like, I can't fucking put up with you anymore. I can't keep doing this. It's always embraced. It's always handled. It's always worked with. And it's very clear that there's no, in fact, it's quite the opposite of tension. By the end of the movie, Robin Williams signs the papers to make them essentially legal partners in whatever capacity they could be in the state of Florida in 1996. So I think that's a really good point, Charlie, that I think you actually see from the very beginning, even though this is very dramatic and the flares are high and I can't hold him back, he's being too crazy, all of that stuff. I think that's a really good point that shows throughout, but especially here.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think, to that point, just me as the little gay kid who was loud and obnoxious and always my reading teacher in 6th grade said I had a voice that carried. She later died of a brain aneurysm. I'm just saying. But I was But I was always sort of dramatic, and the fact that Albert's character was celebrated for being over the top and dramatic is a win. It made me feel good because, I'm pretty dramatic. I mean, there's so much, even to this day, that Albert does in this film that I'm I've done that. I've done that. I have done. I mean, there's a joke in I have my good friends in and out of drag. If I'm carrying a bag, if I'm carrying anything heavy, everyone knows I don't carry things because I'm clumsy and fall, and I walk like Nathan Lane in the Birdcage. I could never do a John Wayne, and so people take my bags from me. And maybe that's a factor of being the oldest usually in my group or whatever. But I'll take it because I'm dramatic and I don't like carrying things, and so I've adopted it into my life. I am this person.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's so good.
I will make a note about that character, though. I think, is he somebody who tends to wear big feelings on his sleeves? Yeah, but none of those feelings or none of those expressions is ever mean.
Yeah,
like not a mean fucking bone in his body.
No,
and I just
anything.
There's no malice, and I really do think I was talking about this with one of my friends, Paulius, a couple of nights ago. When you love people, there is a price of admission, a thing about them that you're like, maybe this is something you need to work on, but I love you and you're not harming me. This isn't toxic. It's just like, let's call it like a quirk, and the quirk is not him obviously doing drag and fucking eating every night. I think if I were to point out any flaw of the character, it's him not trusting the love that other people have for him, which is an area of growth that we see him go on an arc with throughout the film. But yeah, that's just me. Also, he looks like Lucy's stunt double.
Yeah. Yes. In drag, you mean?
Yeah, that comment, that line that Robin Williams said, I thought that was really funny. That's when I put on the subtitles, because I thought that line was fucking killer.
I mean, there are so many. The dressing room scene is just his scream when Robin Williams takes his hand and just puts it all over Nathan Lane's face and pushes Nathan Lane off of him, and the way that Nathan Lane howls in a way that is just and it's just like it's so Forensic Files reenactment crazy, and it's wonderful. It's like dramatic on a level that is not necessary but is welcomed. You know what I mean?
All of his screams in general were just like they were shrieks, truly. Like when they're going through the pinkies up, and every time he slaps his hand down, he makes the little scream. Like it's the most surprising thing ever to him, even though it's just muscle memory that he puts his pinkies out.
Again, what I do all the time. Anything, the smallest inconvenience, there is a scream. It's
How many times do you think you watched this movie before, like, 2002?
You know what's interesting? I had to stop myself. There was a moment, a period that I would, and it's starting again. I have a friend because I recommend it to everybody, and I have a really good friend who I constantly am telling her, we need to watch this movie. You need to watch, to understand me, you need to watch this movie. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm telling them that I'm taking it as a personal offense that they have yet to not watch this movie, that they don't want to be my good friend because they're not, like, literally that's where I'm at. So the amount of times I've seen this film, I can't even count. The amount of times that I've read this script over the years, I cannot even count. Like I know this movie backwards and forwards.
I love it. Well, Charlie, you just dodged a bullet there. Good job for you.
Yeah.
You beat it by a day.
You understand me.
You finally watched it.
Yeah. You didn't even have to tell me. I instinctually was like, oh, uh-oh.
And this is when you asked the question of would you go to the Birdcage, I do have to say one of the reasons that makes me so, Albert in this film is that my first response to that is not if I wasn't getting paid. Because like that is actually my response in like when people ask me to go out to bars here in LA. It's like, well, if I'm not working, if I'm not in drag, why would I go? Like I'm not going to go if I'm not getting paid. And that is what I do. I don't go places unless, Charlie in a tank top like that probably would work. I need some candy at the bar in order to like bring everyone to me. And if I'm not in drag, I want to be surrounded by the cuteness. You know what I mean? So like
maybe that's what Gene Hackman meant when he kept saying, "I want candy."
Maybe. Oh,
yeah, he was trying to get that sweet tooth some way.
Oh,
he was trying to get something. Something.
Well, the inciting incident for the entire movie is that the secret rendezvous that Armand is having is with his son Val, who is just telling him that, and he has a son. It's his biological son. He's the product of a drunken one night stand with a woman named Catherine. We'll talk about Catherine later. he comes home basically to tell him that he is engaged to a young woman named Barbara, whom he's going through with it, even though that Armand thinks that he's much too young. I believe he says you're 20, I think, is the age.
I mean, maybe it's a white person thing, 'cause I know we look older than we are, but like I do think that he looked more like he was starting to consider a 401k. You know what I mean?
Like
no. He looked up that age.
No.
He looked of that age. And I, like, you know, like in your early 30s, you're like, maybe I should think about the future, but not actually do it until your 40s. Like that's the age he looked to me.
There was some baby face, but I agree with you. He definitely didn't quite look.
Oh, below the neck, he probably looked 22. But, you know, but from the face up, it was full on, I haven't moisturized in 10 years.
Yeah, he had to shave.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, motherfucker, do you remember the Dust Bowl? I'm kidding. He didn't look that bad.
No.
He didn't look that bad. So there's a fun story. While me and my boyfriend Cody were watching this movie, Cody was kind of like half paying attention just on his phone. And as soon as Val showed up and Robin Williams like grabbed the back of his neck and gave him a peck, Cody was like, ooh. I was like, that's his son, you freak. But
that is something actually, and that is something I turned to, because my partner Erin had never seen this before, and I turned to her during this scene and I was like, oh, they kind of like, they don't make it clear that it's his son until they explicitly say that it's his son. So yeah, they make it very like, yes, that is a way that a father would embrace his son if they have that kind of relationship, but also at the same time, like they do kind of play the like, oh, what is going on here, until they have that
and that's what makes this. I mean, because you have to think. Well, now this again, the history here, that you have to think about film queer history with this film in this time period in 1996, and mainstream queer film history, I should say. We have not seen queer characters on screen that weren't tragic, that weren't doing something illicit, that weren't bad or criminal or dying of something. Like audiences in general, there were no comedies like this that featured queer characters. Maybe in independent circles, maybe there are smaller films, of course, but the main films people were thinking were Philadelphia. We're thinking, you know, the year before they had Boys on the Side, which had Whoopi Goldberg as a lesbian, but it's still like there weren't comedies like this. And so I think in some way Elaine May, in her brilliance, knew that this was going to be an introduction to a queer story that was very different than what people had for the past 20 some odd years. And we needed to go in a different direction. And I have always credited this film with being sort of the first non-post-AIDS film that like allowed us to not talk about AIDS all the time, not talk about death and destruction and horrible ends and all of these things. All those stories are important, of course, but this film allowed a different lane for queer creators, I think, to go in, and queer stories.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't even mention it in this movie. Well, I don't think it's mentioned. AIDS.
Oh, no.
I don't think it's even mentioned
not
once,
mentioned at all.
Even as like a thing.
Do you think there might have been something, a subtle nod to it or line with Christine Baranski in their scene? Because I mean, I think there may have been, maybe, but I could be wrong on that even. I don't think,
but not in a way where, and we're
way.
about to, and in a way that we're going to get into now, because this is where we flip over to Barbara's parents, the ultra conservative Senator Kevin Keeley, and the co-founder of a conservative group called the Coalition for Moral Order, just like the precursor for fucking MAGA right there.
Yeah,
and his wife Louise. And one thing that I also notice about this film, just kind of thinking about it in retrospect, is that the antagonists per se, or all of it, like none of this movie ever feels mean-spirited in any way, where I think it could be very, very easy to be mean-spirited, and where these people are more so just ignorant and a little stupid, and they have the capacity to enrich, and they have the capacity to learn and become better on the other side of it, which is something I don't think we give people the space to do anymore. And also a lot of people prove that they don't have the space to do it themselves. On the outside.
You also see the characters longing for something, which I think is the ultimate sort of way to root for a character, no matter how vapid or horrible they might be. You know, you see each one of the characters wanting to achieve something, wanting to grow from wherever they're starting. And like, that allows you to be on board with them, I think. You can say the same with Diane Weiss, with Gene Hackman's character. They all just want something. He wants to run for, or, you know, he wants to be successful in his political career. She wants him to pay attention to her. the daughter wants to marry this dude and she's trying to convince everyone wants something that we all can get on board with. And I think that allows the story to flow in a way that then stops us from judging people too much, you know?
That's a great point.
Thank you.
I think it's a testament to the strength of the writing and the performances that I didn't immediately hate these people. Because I'd never seen this before, and as soon as we switched to the parents and we were ripped out of the birdcage, part of me was like, why? No, I don't want to watch conservative white people being trash. But the specificity of everything that they were saying and the family dynamics and just, like you said, H. Allen, everybody wanting something won me over. But this film, I love that you just know everything's going to be all right for some reason. So I never had any reason to fear the family. I never had any reason.
Yeah.
Also, I would argue, writing-wise, if you want to make any kind of character likable, just make them funny. If a character is funny and they can make me laugh, like, I think I liked the family from that first season, from that first scene. I mean, just because they were quick. They were funny.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I thought you said he was in, why are you on the phone? Sorry. You know, I think, there's just a lot of zingers. What were you about to say?
Well, also, the time, again, I'm the most annoying person with history, but I do think that, like, just like now, a film with a Republican in it would have audiences would take it very differently than I think back then. And at that time, Newt Gingrich had just gotten control of Congress, the government shutdowns had just happened, and Republicans were made to look a fool. And Clinton was about to have the affair come out just like a year or two later. So like we were in a place where we kind of were okay with making fun of Republicans. Clinton was still very popular. He had just won re-election or was on the way to winning re-election. And he, like things were happening in that like we kind of wanted to laugh at Republicans a little bit. And I think this film came out at the perfect time where we could maybe look at a Republican and be like, okay, we're on board with this. Let's have fun with this,
I think we could definitely do it again now. I would love to see it again. Well, we kind of have done it again now a little bit. I mean, if you think about Don't Look Up.
Yeah, true.
Or movies like that. Yeah. It's and I think a lot of these themes could continue to be rolled over into right now, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think Don't Look Up. In that, I think the difference, though, is that back then we had the ability to humanize the Republican in a way that we were almost rooting for them. We wanted to get them out of the apartment. We wanted to make sure that they didn't get caught in this drama or whatever it was. And we wanted to get them to a place that everyone eventually was happy. Whereas in Don't Look Up, it literally was a cartoon. She was only there to be, and even the last bit where she comes out and she's naked and she's coming out of the spaceship and gets her head bitten off by the alien or whatever the bird was, like that, it was comical because all it was is like, oh, these are figures to only laugh at. There's no way we can humanize them, so we can just make fun of them,
Fair enough. I do think that's a good picture of how we've evolved to think about each other these days rather than back then as well.
Yes, and it's not just that the socio-political climate has changed. I also think the commentary around comedy has changed to where there's a lot of lines in this that I personally, for the mastery of the writing, found hilarious, impeccable, so good. If some of these lines were to come out today, particularly how they talked about the black underage sex worker, there would be a BuzzFeed. Is BuzzFeed still around?
I think so.
Okay. All right. There would be a Vulture article tomorrow about just like all of the offensive things that are said in the movie. And I am truly neutral on that. I think people can feel however they want to feel about anything. I don't fucking care unless you're paying my rent personally. So I have no feelings about that. But I do think just looking at this as not just a piece of art, but something that studios would take a chance on, I think that a couple of things would need to be different. I think they would want 2 openly gay actors to play the parts.
Oh, definitely.
They would be like, all right, these 2 actors need to be gay. I don't
know about that. I don't think they would. I disagree.
Tell me your thoughts.
You just look at Red, White, and Royal Blue. You got 2 very screen actors who are out here in the biggest gay movie that came out in the last year, maybe, and and they had to play, and I even interviewed one of them, which pissed me off, I'll be honest, but that they had to play that game of like, I'm not going to say I'm straight, but I'm also not going to say.
Ew, did that really happen?
That was the entire campaign. That was the entire campaign for that movie.
Well,
and so
that's fucked up.
But I mean that is the culture we live in right now. That is just what we live in. And so I do think that I do think that it wouldn't be openly gay actors playing these parts necessarily. I think there might be one, you know.
Well, perhaps, and Charlie, I don't know if you know this. Technically, Nathan Lane was not out when this movie came out.
Yeah,
there was actually a whole. Yeah. There was a whole moment on Oprah in the promotion for this movie where her line of questioning kind of got towards that, like, you could possibly publicly out somebody if they answer you honestly. And so the Robin jumps in, and I've seen this clip before too, and kind of like does his Robin Williams things and sort of redirects the conversation away from it. But there's this whole, and then I believe like 3 years later he came out publicly.
God love Robin Williams for like having the wherewithal to understand that Nathan Lane, because that to me, that moment is so, I mean, that moment to me, I'm so glad that Nathan Lane talked about that moment. He only recently talked about that moment too. Last year, so I don't know. It was a recent conversation that came out. What's so interesting about that, Nathan Lane, like I said, was relatively unknown. He was a Broadway actor, Tony-winning Broadway actor, I think at that point. But he was mainly Broadway, and he had a couple voice things, a couple character things, but he was not a household name. And this film, of course, exploded and made him a household name. And Robin Williams knew everything, but he also knew how to be newly famous, and he knew how to do that dance and protect people and help people and do the things. I mean, he just real mensch, just like a fool that's Jewish for good person, people listening. But it's just a real mensch, and that like he just kind of just stepped in and used what we love about him, that we just think, oh, this is funny, LOL. But in reality, he's being the biggest ally possible, you know?
Big time. Yeah. And Charlie, if I may try to like extract what you meant from that, I think maybe in an ideal world, in the same way that we're sick of seeing white people playing characters that are not historically white, in an ideal world, we would see two main characters that are gay men playing gay men, representing that community to its fullest. I think in H. Allen's response is that's still not happening today, as nice as it would be. In a remake of this movie, I would much rather see two gay men as the main characters. And instead of maybe a black underage sex worker, he gets caught in bed with a male sex worker, because that would catalyze the coalition of moral order. I do think, and I'm kind of putting us back on the track of the plot a little bit here, because this is the sort of the inciting incident that gets us into the dinner, the collision course of the two families. We find out that Kevin's senator, who is like his co-founder in the coalition of moral order, was found dead in the bed of an underage black sex worker, of which they go way harder on the fact that the sex worker is black than the fact that they're underage. I noticed that, and I honestly think that's a weirdly like maybe still relevant thing that the conservative media would probably still push on these days, but I'll just leave that one out in the air.
Oh, they'd be worse today. They'd be
way worse about it. And that his wife Louise convinces him that Barbara's wedding, as much as they're not into it, would help shore up this image of him being an upright family man, and like this will show that they're a proper family of the highest moral order, and they're going to go to South Beach, Florida, and escape all the paparazzi outside of their house to meet the parents, totally not gay couple that don't run a drag club down in South Beach, Miami, that they don't register at all.
One more point before we move on, because I don't want to get too in the weeds about this. If this movie were remade today, I would kind of want it to just still be set in the 90s. I don't know if I would want it to be modern, because politically we have so much baggage. Like, not that we didn't have baggage before, but I don't know how we could make a lot of the hijinks hilarious in the way that they are back then now.
Yeah, you benefited from their lack of access to the internet. I mean, basically, like, because a couple Googles and you would have figured out things real quickly about this person. So like,
that's fair.
The whole plot would have been complete. I mean, that also hinges on Diane Wiest understanding how Google works, which even back then or to this day, I don't think she probably does. Love Diane Wiest, but I do think the 90s aesthetic adds something to this that like just brings something. I also want to say too that in the conversation of would it be gay actors or queer actors in general, I actually think that there's value in straight actors playing these parts. And I say that in terms of just, again, history, but you look at a film or a television series like Roots and how they utilized white actors playing horrible slave owners in a way that allowed us to then, it basically brought people to the stories. It allowed people to connect to the stories. And I think of the same thing with Tom Hanks in Philadelphia. And I actually spoke with Tom Hanks about this in an interview, that there's a power and a depth to someone like Tom Hanks playing that part. Because for whatever reason, yes, we understand that the infrastructure of Hollywood is what it is, and it amplifies straight white actors more than anybody else in this industry. We get that. But once that actor gets to a place of superstardom like a Tom Hanks, or like in the case with Roots, like the dad on the Bradys, or Carol O'Connor, or any of those actors, where they played these people that we all know and love, that we see in such a positive, healthy, loving light, all of a sudden go in a direction that is either dark and dramatic, like with Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, or dark and sinister, like with The Roots. And what it does then is it brings you into the story and makes it real. It makes it so real that Tom Hanks, big splash, A League of Their Own, Tom Hanks has AIDS. And that then makes people talk about AIDS. Whereas, unfortunately, because of the system we live in, an actor who is a queer actor maybe, but they're not as famous as Tom Hanks, maybe that film's not going to get seen by as many people. And that's another conversation that we should have, and more queer actors should have the ability to be at Tom Hanks' level. But there was a power to Robin Williams playing this part, because it got people in the theaters and got people seeing a queer couple on screen in a major motion picture that was a huge, massive hit, and got people maybe seeing queer people in a different way. And I think there's a lot of weight and power to that. So I don't want to necessarily get on the bandwagon of like, queer actors can only play queer parts and they should have a first pass on this part, because I don't necessarily think that's the case, especially in a case like this with this film.
That's a great take. I've never heard anyone articulate that the way that you just did. I wish more people said that when they were like, but, because then I think the conversation could be different.
I'm available for interviews, scholarly papers, college classes,
dissertations.
I'm actually not. I'm very busy. I'm not available.
The last, I'll put us back on the redecoration and the dinner track soon. But the only other thing I guess that feels relevant now is that the person who's being considered most heavily for Albert's part, the Nathan Lane part, before it was given to Nathan Lane, was Steve Martin.
Yeah. I think Martin Short would have done better, but that's just my opinion.
I like how it ended up. But that's interesting. I think they were maybe trying to swing for, obviously at that point, Nathan Lane, his biggest theatrical credit is a cartoon animal in Africa. So it's not exactly like what you're saying, like the facial recognition game. And coming off of this, obviously with the performance, he's a household name after.
Yeah. I mean, yes, complete instant character actor. Everyone knows who he is. Gets him to the producers. He becomes an icon. You know what I mean? Yeah.
He's one of those actors, and I guess we'll still stay off the rails a little bit. Nathan Lane, honestly, now that I think about it, is one of those actors where if I see him on my screen as I'm flipping, not like flipping through channels is a thing you do very often, but I think he's one of those actors that gets me to at least stop and, like, if I'm scrolling through Netflix trying to figure out something to watch, I'll read the synopsis, I'll watch the trailer. Well, I don't think there's a lot of actors that get me to do that.
I mean, along the same lines of Tom Hanks in Philadelphia and what I was saying before about gay actors, Nathan Lane in The People vs. O.J., the Ryan Murphy series, and playing that, he played F. Lee Bailey, F. Lee Bailey had that very famous moment during the O.J. trial where he was this white man on television saying the N-word left and right in questioning Mark Furman and all of that. And there's a power and a weight. Now, Ryan Murphy flipped the script a little bit as one of the gay creators in Hollywood working today, probably the biggest, that he took an openly gay actor that everyone knows and put him in a role that is of a very straight, basic white man, essentially, doing what he's doing to try to out and call out the racism of this police and the cop system. Like, literally, Ryan Murphy was kind of flipping the script in a different way, saying like, no, gay actors can also do this, and that I think has a lot of weight to it as well. So like Nathan Lane, powerhouse, the Meryl Streep of faces.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Well, we get the sharing of the plan with Val, and essentially Val's like, here's the thing, Dad, I love you, but you need to pretend you're straight and change everything about who you are and everything about your life, and also everything in your apartment needs to go. And also we need to, but it's okay. It's just for dinner. Because we'll never have to do this again, even though we're going to get married and be around each other for our entire lives. So he tells them that their last name is Colvin because they also can't be Jewish. Yeah. And that he's a cultural attaché to Greece. And while Armand really dislikes the idea of being forced back into the closet, he agrees to play along, enlisting the help of his friends and club employees to redecorate the apartment, literally take everything out. And this is the part where we get to see just how many penises are hanging around Armand and Albert's home. Lots of them, plenty of them.
I love
and
penis.
Honestly, I actually just visited some friends of mine that currently live in DC, and they have a hand-drawn photo of a penis plant, which is just literally a drawing of a dick coming out of a fern.
I love
and
that.
It made it to their bathroom. It's now I've seen it in 3 different homes. It's great.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
Could you play?
I would
gay,
want to redecorate.
Even I feel like
could I play gay?
Yeah, I feel like everyone asks gay people if we could do straight, which of course I cannot. I'm Charlie. I assume you probably could. I feel like you probably could do something. But I feel like straight men are never asked if they could actually convincingly pretend to be gay for a night, a dinner. Could you do it? How would you do it?
This is how I'm going to respond, because I think you might understand if I think you're plugged into city gay life. Okay. I teach 7 classes a week at Barry's in the Castro.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yes. Yeah, I think I could.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh man, H. Allen, the decibels of your voice went down with understanding. You're like, oh,
yes.
Oh, okay.
I feel yes. I mean, the word Barry's and Castro really, for anyone not in the world of California or San Francisco or Los Angeles or understanding queer culture, those are 2 loaded words that say everything you need to know. The things you must see in the locker room.
Oh, I know which times to walk in there and which times to maybe avoid it unless I'm looking for it that day. Yeah, no, there would be many a client that'd be knocking on my door if they ever found out that I had come to a life realization.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
And I'd be ready.
But also,
honestly, they all look amazing.
But also outside of the Castro and outside of Barry's, I think Steve would be mistaken for gay because he's not a piece of shit. And
I understand how to listen and be engaged in a conversation genuinely. Mm-hmm. So I think that gets mistaken for.
Well, also there's a difference too, I think, now with straight men because women have had to take being hit on by everybody for history, but straight men have not had to take being hit on in a direct way really ever. And now I think they're having to contend with even men hitting on them because of the culture we live in, especially if you live in a big city. And I think that's a good thing. I think they should learn how to communicate that kind of thing,
I'm going to say this very clearly, and I'm going to look right into the camera when I say it. I love it.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Just if I'm going to say it full-throated, and I mean that.
Oh, I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, I probably talk about penis more with my straight friends than I do with my gay friends half the time. And I think I've probably seen more of my straight friends' penises than I have my gay friends' penises. So I'm just saying, straight men, I love where you're going.
Yeah, it gives that scene from Moonlight where they're all standing in a circle, just kind of being like, why does yours look so weird?
Yeah, I'm into it. Yeah. I'm here for it, guys. Keep them coming. DM me.
All right. Well, speaking of being a huge dick, let's get back to Val and how he's treating his dad.
Speaking of not having a huge dick. So.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, exactly. So they changed quite literally everything to the wallpaper, and they put a huge cross on the wall, although originally it was that buckhead, which I thought was pretty funny. I mean, I just got it down the street for a couple
Florida,
bucks, and then
in Florida,
and I exchanged it for this cross.
Oh my God. Have y'all been to Florida? Have y'all been to Florida before?
I haven't been to South Beach.
No. I have no desire. Well, except maybe Disney. Well.
Okay, let me tell you. I love Florida. I'm a Florida person. I don't go to Florida often. I don't like hot weather. I don't leave my apartment very much. I love air conditioning. But I do have a love for Florida and South Beach. I've been there many times. I performed there many times. And the people there are amazing. The audiences there are incredible. People, the clubs there, the queens there are so good. I love Florida. That said, one of the things that I love about Florida so much is very similar to what I love about Las Vegas, in that walking down the street, it's like a self-esteem boost, because you will always see someone worse off than you, and you will feel good about yourself. And that is Florida for me. And that is Las Vegas for me too. In that it is a constant ego boost of, you know what? I'm doing okay in life. I think I'm fine. And just walk down the street and you won't even need therapy for the week. You're good.
I've never been to Miami, but now I feel like I don't.
You have to. It's so good.
I know.
It's so
I do
sexy.
need to
It's
go.
so fun.
It's one day, when maybe if they figure their shit out.
I just can't.
I've been in Florida since I was 14.
I can't believe that Florida has that collection of different cultures inside of that place.
It's impressive.
It's very diverse.
It's so. Oh no! Not diverse. I just mean that I can't believe that there are just so many like people that I probably never want to meet, but at the same time, like hot people in the gay community at a different part of Miami, but then also someplace like I definitely want to go to Disney World at some point. It just like Florida is just so schizophrenic to me with the different pockets of what it has going on. It's very like I want to do this, but I don't want to do this. I want to do this.
Say, don't put the politics of the state and the crazies on the people who live in the great cities of some of these states.
That's fair.
Like, I will go to Florida and have fun in Miami and parts of Orlando, although Orlando is filled with a lot of crazy Republican Christian. But it also has a cool scene to it. One of my favorite drag queens is from there, Roxy Andrews. And then, Texas, another great state. Austin, Houston, Dallas. These are wonderful cities that you can go have. You can get turned up. You can have fun. There are cool people there having great times. It's just the rest of the state's kind of fucked up.
New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans, a
Places
great
like that.
example.
Love
Wonderful.
me some New Orleans.
Yeah, totally. So go have fun. Suck a dick. Sorry.
On it.
I will plural.
Let me put that in my planner really quick.
That's the shirt that I think we all need. Go have fun. Suck a dick.
Well, that feels like a fitting time to pivot back into the plot of the movie. So after they've done or I guess in the middle of the remodeling, Albert walks in and they kind of tell him what's going on and how they need him to kind of just like not be there for a little bit, which if honestly arguable if you know how Albert reacts to things, kind of being like, you gotta not be here is maybe not the most prudent way to say it, but Albert handles it somewhat well, being like, well, maybe I could be his uncle. And they're like, okay, uncle of what? What are you gonna be the uncle of? And so they kind of decide to call up Catherine, Val's mother, who, as far as we can tell, they've never interacted. Val and his mother have never interacted before. I believe they have their first conversation on the phone ever a few minutes later, or as the dinner is happening. And so we get this sort of like detour scene as the house is coming together, where Armand goes to see Catherine with Albert, and Albert has to wait outside in the lobby as they sort of catch up and have some champagne and redo all of their dance scenes. And you can see, and I wrote this in the notes, and I love this scene specifically. I love how Albert's jealous. I love how Armand and Catherine fall right back into how they were when they were young. And this film, perhaps knowingly, perhaps unknowingly, covers a lot about the spectrum of sexuality and the spectrum of love, and how different people can love each other at different times for different reasons, and how
Parenting too, different types of
and parenting too, and how physical love can be shown differently, and how it can happen once and never happen again, but people can still have a lot of love for each other for other reasons. And
Well,
I just
also
think
relationships too. I mean, you look at Albert and Armand, and you know those two have not fucked in a very long time, but that is the tightest relationship possible. That is love. That is love.
Real love.
In that is like deep.
the effort.
Exactly. That is deep, deep love. But it also shows the complexities of sort of like queer romance, and how, it doesn't have to be defined by sex, babies, life, marriage, all of these things. And these characters define this moment, really shows you sort of the fluidity of sexuality, relationships, sex, how we interact with each other, how we grow old together. I mean, there are so many layers with these three characters specifically, and how they're all kind of connected in their own way and they need each other at the same time. They even need her. They need her in some way to help in this situation because she's the missing link that finally she can do something for her son. When in reality, she didn't really ever want to. She went off and had a great life on her own, and she knew that this other couple were doing a great job. So that wasn't her story, and it was an accident, and she figured it out. Like, I applaud it.
I applaud it too. I just, in my headcanon, I think that psychologically, where a lot of Val's treatment of the dads comes from is the longing for that mother figure.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of residual shit for him is coming up that he may not be aware of. And it's so funny when I try to imagine him as a kid. I imagine him just being the chillest, most accepting, helping drag queens count their tips, ass kid that is just comfortable with everyone. So it took a lot of mental work for me to buy that he would be so scared. Also, to buy the fact that he would be attracted to his fiance the way that he is. I'm like, really? That's somebody that you would go after with the...
I think I understand it in a way that, like, it feels like he's stuck in the gender binary, in that, which the world puts on a lot of kids when they grow into the world and when they're away from their parents and they're away from the lives that they lived. I mean, look at anyone who grew up poor and then somehow was lucky enough to get into an Ivy League school or whatever, and then all of a sudden their entire friend group are people who grew up with money and wealth, and they go into debt because they keep trying to, like, maintain the appearance of being like all these other friends. It's the same concept to me in that, like, here's this man who, yes, grew up in a very sort of, like, around drag queens and in a very flamboyant environment, and then goes off clearly to an institution that his parents could afford to send him to, but that is very different from the lives, and he saw a different side of life, and it's sort of exciting and new. To him, that normalcy of this basic-ass lady that he was falling in love with is, like, actually kind of like the pinup model to him. Like, it's the opposite of what he's ever seen in his life. So it's exciting and different and interesting, and I get it, but I also get, like, how he can't see Albert as a mother figure because to him, it's just this binary of gender of this is just a man. These are two men in a relationship. When in reality, if we really look at it, Albert is, like, definitely a they them on every level, and does not exist in the orbit of any gender really at all, except for the fact that, like, that they have to shave their facial hair and body hair whenever they're doing these performances and stuff. That's about the most masculine thing he's done in this movie. And so I think Val is just stuck in a little bit of a, he saw a different side of life, and he's a little lost in it. He's a little confused, and that's okay. That's okay.
And I think you just touched on a little bit of some of the next part that we get into after the Catherine scene, which is Albert and Armand essentially going through, like, straight coaching camp. I don't even know how to frame that. Straight camp, where they're trying to get him to talk about sports and about the Dolphins and, oh, Dal, you son of a bitch, how are you? Put her there with the big handshake. And this is honestly some of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, where he's trying to teach him how to hold the glass like a man and how to walk like a man. And that old lady who keeps trying to do the John Wayne walk, and she just keeps staring at him. And I think some of the things that you're getting from this is that it's very clear, and Albert even says so. He's like, this just isn't it's just not me. This is how I'm wired. Like, my pinkies are gonna go up when I pick up my glass.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk like this. It's who I am, and I'm not just gonna flip a switch and do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that leads to that scene where Albert comes out in the suit and has that final sort of, like, heartbreaking "I failed you" moment, where he just walks out, and you can just feel how uncomfortable he feels and how uncomfortable they feel looking at him, sort of like trying to be this caricature of himself that he isn't.
The line that I constantly say to this day, out of context, in context, doesn't matter. One does want a hint of color. It's just, I don't know why. It just stays with me.
I did not even clock the fact that he had pink socks, because who doesn't want a fucking bright color sock to go with their suit? So many straights that I know do that, and it's so funny that I didn't clock that. I didn't clock that until they were...
How far we've come.
Yeah.
from everyone being fucking straight-laced, gray slate, brown. After that line, Erin did look straight at me, and she was like, "That's you.
Yeah.
You're the one who
color.
says you need. Yeah, I need a hint of color."
Except nowadays, you would do the whole thing of like a suit with no socks, and I'm just like, girl, put on some socks. Yeah, you need.
She's got eczema. I can't.
What is interesting about this scene that we talked a little bit about it at the top, but one of the things that I found, I see the depth that you spoke to earlier, Charlie, of this scene and like the importance of this scene and why and how heartbreaking, and it is very heartbreaking, but it also, and this to me goes to the brilliance of the performances and the script, and that even Albert's reaction, like the first "you hate me," is genuine. It's real. You feel it. You feel it in your soul. But then he goes a little bit deeper and he's back into the drama queen. He's back into the over the top. Like he goes to the terror. So we never lose the flamboyance of the drama, the flamboyance of the moment. He will always have that. That always exists. Even in the most heartfelt, emotional, tender moments like this moment, he's still, and then even you see Robin Williams' character kind of roll his eyes because at first, their hearts are breaking when he says, "You hate me." But then he says it again and again. And then he gets up to leave. And then you see Robin Williams be like, "Oh, brother. Okay." and you see like where this is going. And it becomes the honeymooners. It becomes Lucy and Ethel or Lucy and Ricky. It becomes the couple fighting moment that this script is so perfect at, in that it is essentially just an episode of I Love Lucy. This whole movie is essentially the fundamentals of a couple fighting and the wife trying to get what she wants in the end, which is to be in the show, except the show in this one is the dinner. And it's a big Lucy episode, which I find the dance of that so perfect. And this scene does it so well.
Albert's gone at this point, and they're like, "All right, well, we gotta go to dinner. We gotta make this happen." They make Agador, now Agador Spartacus, who's passing as the Greek butler. They make him put shoes on, and he's like, I can't do shoes. I'll fall if I wear shoes. Hank Azaria does his, honestly, like expert level pratfalls, even though he was wearing shoes that are clearly 3 sizes too big for him. So he's even got the physical acting down. He's got the voices and the physical chops. Unfortunately, Catherine's stuck in traffic. Although earlier, I guess we didn't talk about this. We skipped over the part where Catherine calls and she talks to Val and Catherine get to talk for the first time, and it's cute. And you can to your point that maybe he's longing a gender stereotypical representation of a mother. I think you see that a little bit right there in that conversation. But Catherine's in traffic, bridge is up, little tiny boats going through. It's going to take a long time. I did laugh at how little the boat was to cause that huge traffic jam with the huge bridge going up. But as the Keeleys are there and starting to wonder where Mrs. Coleman is, suddenly Albert enters, dressed and styled as a conservative middle-aged woman, and Armand, Val, and Barbara can't fucking believe it. Erin was like shrieking next to me in delight because I don't think she saw it coming either.
Oh, wow.
And
oh my God, the joy. Oh my God, wait. The joy of a first-time watcher seeing and not knowing Nathan Lane's about to show up in drag. Oh, I would love to get that moment back in my life.
And they were just going to be totally fooled by it the entire time.
That was so funny. That whole sequence just had me and Cody then cutting back to the kitchen and just the pratfalls in the kitchen. I'm like, this movie is doing comedy on a level that I have never seen. I can't compare it to anything. Maybe like I Love Lucy, kinda, sorta, but like it's just so, there's so many things happening.
You see, there's a rare moment. It's one of my favorite, because I mean, I've watched a lot of Robin Williams stuff over the years, and there's a rare moment. I think I heard this on the director's commentary. I don't know. That's how much I've seen this movie. But there's a rare moment of Robin Williams breaking, where you see he's going to get the soup or something from the kitchen, and it's him and Hank Azaria in the kitchen, and you know Hank Azaria is doing Agador in such a ridiculous way, and you see like, you know, I think Robin Williams falls and he starts to laugh, and then he gets back up and he has the pot in his hand somehow, and he's just throwing shit in the pot at the same time, and you see him laughing at himself falling, and it's all just crazy. And Mike Nichols kept that because it's just so real. You have to go back and watch it because you'll see Robin Williams laugh at himself.
Mm-hmm. The panic of them swinging the whiskey bottle and then throwing stuff around in the kitchen, and then the soup is served and they all take a bite of it and then they all immediately reach for the bread in the middle of the table.
That's so good. But even before that, the bowls having little naked people on them, and like and everyone being like,
all realizing
they're all realizing, I have some little girls. Don't you have a little girl? Like, I mean, it's just so, it's
like
so,
that would make it better.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's so like, and what I love about it is that like here, these are middle-aged gay men in the 90s, you know, and it just goes to show you that even back then, because I mean, even like gay, I mean, we know there's like gay people in our lives now, like we're very, very loose in the use of nudity in homes and pictures and sort of it's around us or whatever. And then when a straight, you feel very much when a straight person comes into your orbit, where then what is normal to you, which is just seeing a penis on a wall, all of a sudden you're hyper aware. Oh, there's a straight person in the room. The penis on the wall is not normal to them. You know what I mean? Like it's just a weird thing to them. And I love that that Elaine May was smart enough to add that in. You know, she knew some gay dudes in the 80s in New York.
As we approach the finale of this movie, my favorite part of this dinner scene, although there's a lot of favorite parts to be had, but my favorite part is, again, something that I didn't catch when I was younger that I clearly caught this time around, is how attracted Gene Hackman's character is to Albert's drag character the entire
adorable.
time. Like, you can tell that, like, it's adorable.
Well,
you can see his wife getting pissed because that's exactly the attention that she's been starved for her entire,
Can I tell you
like,
something
last
about
20
straight
years.
men, around straight
Yeah.
men and drag?
Yeah.
This is something that I've only recently learned, and I think it's a cultural thing that's happened. I mean, I think there's always been clown fuckers, which is the term that is used for straight men who are attracted to, straight men who are attracted to drag queens. But I will say that when I'm in drag and when I'm around straight men specifically, the reaction, even on Instagram too, the reaction and the DMs are wild. It's this play on gender that I don't really quite understand how straight men react to drag queens. Some straight men, not all straight men, obviously. And it's probably even a small amount, but it is really interesting. Gay guys are gay guys around drag queens, and they do what they do, and sometimes they can be very problematic. Straight men are just like everyone can be problematic, but like for the most part, everyone's good. But what I'm saying is straight men and the small percentage who are interested in drag queens and who are confused and eager to understand more, that's Gene Hackman's character in this movie, that he doesn't even know it. Then it fucks with his head when it's so fascinating to me.
Wasn't it when it's revealed, and we're sort of jumping a little bit, but isn't it like, and I guess we can get to this part, the dinner happens, hilarity ensues. Unless there's more specifics that we want to talk about the dinner scene, go watch it. Highly recommend going to watch it. But we get this, like, it's starting to come apart at the seams. Like, Albert stands up at one point and the wig is ajar, and Barbara sees it and immediately is like, take me to the powder room, please. Like,
it proves my point. Wigs bring people together. Every time, and when a wig goes wrong, like people will circle around the girl, and the wig will be corrected. Like, the wigs bring people together. But it is in this moment. I do want to go for this moment after it's revealed, of course, that they know that Albert is a man, and Diane Weiss has the whole thing being like, "This is a man. A man. They're both men." That moment, Albert's line when he goes up to Gene Hackman's character and tries to like settle things, being like, "It's still me. There's nothing except one little difference." And then he goes, "It's so perfect."
I knew it's perfect.
Not so little.
It's perfect. You knew that correction was coming too. You knew that correction was coming. Yeah. It was so funny.
And it's so, and what's so amazing about it is it grounds Albert in that, if we had any doubt that this is someone who identifies as a man. This is a man here, and he still has the wherewithal. However, today he'd probably identify not as a man, but back in this character identifies as a man. And this joke grounds him in the masculinity of the character, saying that, yeah, he might be all of these things, and gender is a spectrum, and he can be all of these things, but he also has a dick, and he's going to make a joke about his dick. And
he knows how to use it.
And he knows how to use it. And I love it. I love that. I love that line so much.
It is really good. And that was one of and I guess we sort of, if there's one thing to kind of skirt over, it's the pursuit of the paparazzi of of the Congress family the whole time. Like these two skeevy paparazzi dudes way back on the East Coast. They bribe the driver. They find out they're going to South Beach. They follow them down there. They're essentially a plot device to keep things moving and to go into this final, I think, confrontation goes in heavy.
Well, and they went on to, I mean, one of them went on to become an Oscar-winning Best Picture winner. He's George Clooney's producing partner. Really? Oh, what's his name? Grant has something. And then the other guy, Tom, who he is like an amazing character. Tom Mix something. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his last name. But he was on Everybody Loves Raymond and like all these different things. And he's a fantastic character actor. But yeah, they're just as important.
They're doing things. They cause a couple of traffic incidents. They're staking out the apartment as the dinner's happening. They see the note that's left for Catherine being like, "Don't come. We've got it handled.
Yeah,
it's all good." They rip it away immediately. We chuckled at the cell phone being the size of his head, the brick cell phone that you had to flip and pull the antenna. That was a nice little throwback moment. Very GTA Vice City.
Yeah.
If I'm showing my straight colors again,
yeah,
I guess.
There you go.
And yeah, we're back, man, stuff. Yeah. And Catherine actually comes in and is like, "Oh, hello, it's nice to meet you. I'm Mrs. Colvin." Yeah. And they're all like, "Hold on a second." And that's where all the truth comes out as they come back out of the bathroom and they're like, "Hey, this lady says that she's your mother. Like, what's going on here?" And I do love that of all of the truth that's revealed, the hardest thing for Gene Hackman to wrap his mind around is that is not a woman who he's been talking to the whole time.
Yeah.
Because he is in real time coming to grips with the fact that he's been attracted to this person for the last 2 hours. And now he goes, "What does that say about me, Mr. Head of the Coalition for Moral Order?"
I love that Gene Hackman just plays it as quietly befuddled instead of enraged and just really... that would have been or disgusted even. That would have been such a different movie. Like, the movie would have been different if that were the reaction, and I don't think we could have gotten the ending.
I'm glad you brought up the director, because like Mike Nichols, I don't think we've talked about him.
Incredible.
Mike
Classic.
Nichols. And there's a great documentary on Mike Nichols, also a great biography that came out a couple of years ago on Mike Nichols, and he's just one of the geniuses of the last part of the 20th century of film and theater. I mean, he's the reason why we have Whoopi Goldberg. He's the reason why, Whoopi, or Working Girl, became a thing. Like, he gave us Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The Graduate. Like, literally, this man somehow went from being an improv comedic actor, massive dude, to then being like, we'll try directing. And he kind of was a Jordan Peele in that, not that he went on to direct horror films, but like that he was known for this one thing and it could have pigeonholed him into this one thing. And then all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm so much more than this one thing. And he went off to direct The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and these amazing films that were so far and beyond comedy and were not comedies at all. And he just became something else, and he's just a genius director. And he's dead now, so R.I.P.
Shouts out to Mike. This is the, and I mean, if we can pick nits, I think this is one of my few nitpicks where the resolution is Val pretty much stepping forward and being like, yeah, that's the woman who birthed me, but then he puts his arm around Albert and goes, but this is my mother. And I was like, cool, you could have saved just like an hour and a half if you just like did that in the first fucking place. But I get that all of this like had to happen, but I just went, oh, it was that easy? That's basically what I said when he said that. I was like, okay, so it's just that easy. You just had to make your parents go through literal hell and redecorate their entire home and pretend that they were...
You know what?
To this lesson, but I'm finally glad...
I'm gonna push back just a tiny little bit. I don't think that that's because of the story or the script. I think that that's because of the acting choices that the actor was making. I think that he kind of hit the same beat a lot of times of, why is no one ready? Like, that was just his energy the entire movie. I think that if there were a different rhythm or a different moment of, and this didn't have to be in the writing, I think just a little bit more softness than relenting and be like, no, fuck that. This is about me. I think seeing more of a push and pull with his character would have heightened the performance a little bit more. But then again, I'm not too mad at it. Though I do see your frustration, Steven. I'm not too mad at it because the film isn't really about him. You know, it's about this family. It's about what's happening around an event incited by him. But I truly, I think that if that actor would have kind of diversified his choices a little bit more, I'm not saying that it was a bad performance. I just think that it was a bit limited compared to what it could have been. I think that could have been a very...
Well, and you want to see him go from point A to point B, like every character. You want to see resolution in every character. And like that is because he isn't the main character, and you also want him to go, like literally all we've wanted from him this entire time is to accept the parents that he has and in the way that they are. That's his moment. And then from this moment, we're able to get Albert saving the day. We're able to get Albert using his personal strength and how he exists in the world to then help these people to get to the place that they need to get to, which is the hell out of the birdcage. And like, just as a writer and a narrative, from a narrative perspective, I think it's actually kind of like the only place that character.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with both of you, and I do think I agree with you, Charlie, that if it doesn't seem like he feels bad until he has that moment.
When do white men ever feel bad in movies? Like, they never have that feeling.
In life.
Yes,
Charlie,
in life.
Look at us.
Well,
Look at how good we got it.
I feel bad about a lot of my choices. Let me tell you.
Well,
I mean, I've seen pictures. I've seen pictures of me.
We're talking personal versus intrinsic here. So I think
it's like, and I want to protect Nathan Lane so fucking much in this movie that I look at that. I look at Val and I'm like, do you not see what I see right now? And it makes me so frustrated with that character.
Do you see what I...
Do you love what you see? Yeah, I think he really frustrates me. Though I would definitely tap if I could go back in time machine, but I digress.
Ooh.
Well, first of all, we've been separating feelings from physical since the start of time, so I think we can figure that one out for sure. But we'll get into I guess the resolution of the movie, and if you've watched the movie, I guess you already know why I'm saying I guess, because they literally just kind of dance off into the night. But the paparazzi writ large has been alerted of what's going on, is that these two guys that live here are the owners of the drag club downstairs, and the senator and his wife are definitely up there. They paid the driver again to let him know as much. I also want to say, this driver is giving them up for like $2. They're handing them singles. He got handed singles. And I know it's 96, but like, come on, you're going to have to at least give me a tenner. Like,
I mean,
let me fill up my gas tank.
Exactly.
If I'm going to rat out my employer.
You can get a lot at 7-Eleven for $2, but still, like, you can get a full meal for 10. You know,
for days.
Yeah, multiple
back then.
Days. Yeah, that's
holy
true.
crap.
Yeah, I mean, I want to hot dog. I love a 7-Eleven.
Big bite. I love a big bite.
We'll be here. We don't have enough time.
Love a big bite. Oh, I love a big bite. I love a big bite.
I'm a taquito guy, but you know.
Oh, a taquito.
Yeah, I like to play roulette like that with my GI system.
Yeah, I can.
Anyway, their solution to get them out of there is to dress them in drag and have them be a part of the show and to be a part of the dance out. So, as you said, Charlie, we get the bookend with the Sister Sledges, We Are Family, and we get this amazing scene of both of them dressed up in drag to the nines. Gene Hackman looks amazing. And as they get out of the club, all of the paparazzi don't even give them a second look because they apparently look that good. Yeah. And when they get out to the driver, he's like, these TikToks in 10 minutes, and he's like, not a million years later.
So good. You know what's so interesting about this moment is that, like, I mean, if someone would have recognized them in drag, if would have recognized this man in drag, it would have been the end of, like, it would have been the end all for everything. And even today, as we're recording this, a picture of J.D. Vance in drag just came out.
That man has no integrity. Sorry, keep going.
Sure, I mean, yeah, that's a podcast. But the fact that picture comes out, I mean, I just think about, like, what would have happened if someone would have, like, how easily, I think it's very, I mean, one of the things I like about drag is that I am not recognizable as myself in drag oftentimes. Like, people don't know who I am when I'm in drag, and I like that. I like the ability, the fluidity of my identity and the way I can navigate and how I can communicate and all of those things. Those are good things. But for someone like him, it's definitely beneficial in this moment. I just think it would have been, it was a high risk move for him to do, because if he would have gotten found out, that would have been worse than his friend sleeping with an underage, sex worker. Like, it would have been a whole other conversation.
Ironic, but probably still true these days as well.
Yeah.
If that was,
that
was the thing.
Isn't that crazy to think about? That it probably, like, him in drag would have been worse than his sleeping with an underage sex worker.
Unless it were Halloween, because Americans are that basic.
That's true. It's true.
That is true.
That's true.
Well, I didn't think this hard about it, but for our ratings of the film, we usually try and think of something that is from the film.
Okay.
So that was a close second.
Yeah.
And so in honor of Albert's breakdown, where he was telling Agador that he could have all of his worldly possessions, including his wigs, and he immediately stops crying and asks, which wigs? We're going to rate the Birdcage on a scale of 1 to 5 wigs. And H. Allen, I would love for you to go first.
Oh, I have 5, of course. I mean, there's no doubt.
The most obvious 5.
Insane.
Yeah.
And they all would be lace front. They all would be human hair. They all would be very expensive wigs. All 5 of them lined up.
All of my best wigs.
Yes, exactly.
Charlie, how many wigs would you give the Birdcage?
I am going to give the Birdcage 5 out of 5 wigs, because it would be a damn insult to give it anything other than that. And I'm going to tell you why. This movie I want to save this script. I actually want to print it out and just own it, because the lines...
You should.
Yeah, it's pulled up on my laptop right now. Yeah, I just need to download it. I'm so excited to just dig in and see the scene work and see how everything was constructed. I really think that I learned a lot from watching this, and I can't believe that it took me so long to get into it. And funny fact, my dad owned this on VHS when we were younger. So I remember holding and looking at the VHS. But you know what's so funny? I think that at H. Allen, you're gonna fucking roll your eyes or like find my address and throw a Molotov cocktail at the second floor window. I think that I wrote over the VHS of Birdcage to do 2 episodes of Charmed at one point, because I thought, I mean, it was a very faggoty thing to do. So at least I wasn't recording over like WWF or like wrestling or something. It was
I mean, I almost would have rather you have done WWF, because that's hotter than Charmed, at least. So. Could jerk off to WWF.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the wrestling poll is less gay than doing Charmed, but
true.
Well, it's good. I still appreciate it.
Yeah, but now in my top 25, it's that good.
And make sure you get the shooting script, because there's a book out there on the shooting script of it, and I feel like it might be different than what the internet AI probably came up with. But like the shooting script is like amazing. Also, I want to say just one other thing before that, because I know Steven has to do his wigs. But there's a great book that I read on Elaine May that people should. It's a new book. Oh, who wrote it? Well, it's called Miss May Does Not Exist, and I'm blanking on the author's name now. But she's a great writer, and it just came out earlier this summer. I read it because I'm a big fan of Elaine May. People should go read that book and the book on Mike Nichols. Those 2 books are fantastic if you want to know more about these 2 amazing creators.
Beautiful. Miss May Does Not Exist. The Life and Work of Elaine May, Hollywood's Hidden Genius by Carrie Corrigan.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. Yes.
Was Meryl Streep's performance in Devil Wears Prada partially influenced by Mike Nichols? I think I read that.
Well, no, it wasn't. Yeah, so she did use, I remember her talking about something that there was like because she collaborated with Mike Nichols quite a bit. I mean, famously on Silkwood, which is an incredible film that also has Cher in it. Everyone should watch that. And Cher plays a lesbian in it. But then there's a great scene where she's all like, why would you sleep with me or whatever? And Meryl Streep's like, "'Cause I like me. But anyway, and then they also worked together on Angels in America years later as well. Incredible, the TV adaptation of it. But yeah, I did read that. He was kind of mean. He was kind of a mean one. Married Diane Sawyer. Like, he was a complicated dude, but really fun.
It's 5 weeks for me, obviously. A, because I'm not trying to get canceled today, but B, because I actually believe it. I said this to Charlie on text message. He texted me this morning being excited to talk about this podcast and also asking me if I was doing the outline because we communicate at last second like that. I was thinking about it like very genuinely in HL, and I'm sure you could identify with if it's not in this. Like, I think that this movie is legitimately in my top 10. Like, I haven't sat down and like written out my top 10 favorite movies in a long time, but I don't think I would get very far before writing this movie down. And it was really nice to come back to it after a long time and sort of like reaffirm that. And I actually think a lot of them are movies with Robin Williams in them. Like I think my number one favorite movie of all time is still Good Will Hunting, mostly because of Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And just the powerhouse performance that he puts forward in a movie like that. I also like grew up pretty close to Boston, so I love me some Boston. But anyway, I love this movie. It deserves everything that it gets, and everyone should go and watch it because it ages really wonderful. It does. Like it's for a movie that's nearly 20, 30 years old. I can do math. It's aged really, really well.
Yeah, it's wild. And to me, that is like, it's kind of like a lot of my favorite things, like my favorite things that I'm like known for, quote unquote, like the Golden Girls or like Birdcage or the things I talk about a lot, are those things. I think there is something to a writing like Elaine May, which I'm going to say her name again, that it is ageless. It's just funny is funny. And when someone understands human nature in a way and how people communicate in a way and then is able to find the funny in the way that we just organically communicate, I think is just, that's an Albert Einstein. That's a brilliant person. That's someone who is just working on a level that we can only strive to be, but probably never will be. And so all we can be grateful for is that we get to watch it and read it and absorb it. And if you're cool enough to be able to know that it's great, then you got a great group of people to be around to talk about it all the time. And I love that.
Amen. Well, I think we can leave it on that. So, H. Allen, thank you so much for joining us today on another episode of Charlie and Steve Watch Stuff. Other than parting shot, where can the people find you quickly before we head out?
H. Allen Scott on everything, Google a bitch.
Yeah. SEO optimized. Hell yeah.
I guess I am.
Let's
I don't
go.
even know. I don't Google myself, but yeah, I probably am.
I'm sure. If it's the same on everything, I'm sure you're doing a good job.
Okay.
Well, we're happy to be back. We didn't really talk about much. Maybe we'll talk about it later. We took a little break from the podcast, so Charlie could just casually raise a couple of G's, a couple of tens of G's for a short film called Stakeout. So there will be more coming about that very soon. But for myself, Steve Selnick, and my good friend Charlie Peppers, and our good friend H. Allen Scott, thank you so much for watching Charlie and Steve Watch Stuff, and we will bye the next one.